Koholo Yahweh Shem Yahushua Bahashem Kakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, even the elders that came before them that taught us this truth. Shalom and salutations to all the brothers. I'll push in the word of truth and in sincerity, the hopeful tabernacle of David. I'm the elder Yahshua with this quick lesson. We're going to let Robbie Van Winkle here, also known as Vanilla Ice, we're going to let him. He does a really good job of putting everything together. Where we're at now, what just happened with the helicopter, what is about to happen, and then towards the back of it, he ties in what is going on with money and finances and how everything is being shoehorned into what they call the NWO in front of everybody's eyes, and they can't see it. He does a really good job of bringing everything together. And his title, this is 49 minutes ago. The title of this is More Warnings. So if we take that in the spirit, we go to Ezekiel real quick. So here's the warning. Easy 3. Easy 3 and 17. And here's the warning. So this guy's going to lay out what's going on. And everything that, when he gets to the end of his dissertation, everything adds up to the chip. Don't take it. Okay, there's your warning. Ezekiel 3 and 17. Son of man, I've made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. Here's your warning. Okay, don't take the sea hip. You're going to listen to Robbie Van Winkle. Right? Ice Baby. He's going to give a thorough warning. He's going to spell it all the way out, and I'm going to let him cook. Take it, Robbie.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I want to talk about another major escalation in the war in Iran, because over the last 24 hours, we've seen tensions between Iran and the United States rise significantly. The Americans have accused Iran of shooting down one of their military helicopters near the Strait of Hormuz. The US has responded with strikes against Iranian military targets, and Iran has now launched attacks against American military facilities across the whole of the Middle East. And that's important because every step in this process moves the conflict further away from de-escalation and closer towards a wider regional conflict. At the same time, financial markets are becoming increasingly nervous. Oil remains above $90 per barrel. Technology shares have continued to sell off. Bond yields are still rising. And some of the world's largest financial institutions are now openly warning that risks are building across the global economy. So in today's video, I want to go through exactly what's happened with the helicopter incident, what we know about the American response, how Iran has retaliated, what could happen.
Salakia.
This brilliant little device keeps any room ice cold all summer.
Salakia. So I'm going to let him continue because this is really important. So take it, Robbie.
Happen next, and why investors around the world are paying such close attention to these developments. But before we get started, could I ask anybody that hasn't subscribed yet to please hit that subscribe button and also give me a thumbs up. Really does help me with the channel and also puts a smile on my face. And just a quick reminder that my competition, where you can win my property or a cash alternative prize, closes this Friday, the 12th of June at 5 p.m. UK time, which is midday New York and 9 a.m. Los Angeles. So if you haven't got involved yet and you're interested in it, scan the QR code on the screen now or click the link in the description below. And good luck in the draw if you're getting involved. Now let's start with the event that appears to have triggered the latest escalation. According to statements from Donald Trump and senior US officials, Iran was responsible for bringing down a US Apache helicopter operating near the Strait of Hormuz. The aircraft was repeatedly conducting operations in one of the most strategically important waterways in the world. The Strait of Hormuz is around 20 miles wide at its narrowest point and acts as the gateway between the Persian Gulf and the open ocean. A significant proportion of global oil exports pass through that route on a single day. It would be around 20% if it was operating normally, but as you'll know if you've been following the channel, it isn't operating anywhere near normally at the moment. So anything that threatens stability in this area immediately attracts the attention of governments, energy traders, and investors. The details of how the helicopter was brought down are still emerging. However, the US position is clear. Washington believes Iranian forces were responsible. It was reported that a drone hit the copter. Both pilots managed to eject before the aircraft crashed, and thankfully neither was killed. And what happened next is particularly interesting because it provides another glimpse into how modern warfare is changing. The rescue operation involved the use of unmanned naval drones. For years, we've associated drones with surveillance missions, reconnaissance operations, and more recently, attack roles. Now we're seeing them being used in rescue and recovery situations as well. Technology continues to play an increasingly important role on the battlefield, and this incident highlights just how rapidly military capabilities are evolving. The political response from Washington was swift. Donald Trump publicly blamed Iran for the attack and stated that the United States would respond. The message coming from the White House was that American forces could not allow an attack on US military personnel to go unanswered. And that brings us to the next stage of this story. Within hours, US forces launched strikes against multiple Iranian targets. Reports suggest that close to 20 sites were targeted. The focus appears to have been on military infrastructure, including radar systems, air defense facilities, and positions linked to Iranian operations around the Gulf region. The US described the strikes as a measured response in self-defense. The objective was to degrade Iran's military capabilities while avoiding a broader campaign. But history shows that retaliatory actions rarely bring an immediate end to tensions. Instead, they often create pressure for another response. And that's exactly what appears to have happened. Iran subsequently announced attacks against American facilities across the Middle East. Reports indicate that US-linked sites in Jordan, Bahrain, and Kuwait, as well as some other locations, were targeted. Air defense systems were activated across the region. Interceptions were reported by the USA. Military bases were placed on heightened alert. And suddenly, the conflict had expanded beyond the original helicopter incident. The concern now is what comes next, because we're witnessing a familiar pattern. One side acts, the other side responds. That response creates pressure for another reaction, and each new step increases the risk of miscalculation.
What happens next? Right? I know he's being long-winded, but hang in there. All right? Because as you can see from the perspective that he's speaking, it's in the now. He's talking not about what happened yesterday, but what is happening now. Okay? Yeah, what happened yesterday. What's happening right now? How does what happened yesterday affect what is going on at this moment? He's telling you.
Nobody can say with certainty whether this latest exchange represents the peak of the escalation or merely another stage in a much larger conflict.
We can say that we're looking at it as the prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua who already know the outcome. We're not speculating about the outcome. We know. It is written, all right? We know the interpretation thereof anyway. So some of the things that he's saying, he's about on point as he can be. Go ahead.
What we do know is that markets are becoming increasingly uncomfortable. And that's where this story starts to move beyond geopolitics into economics.
Now where are we going? Where are we going? How all of this, how this war drives what? How it drives the chip. He's going to say, they're pulling back from it. They can't make no more chips because of economics and they're turning the other way. No. Well, they are going to be in straits. So keep that in mind. As they get closer to filling their belly, they will be in straits. So things will be happening to prevent them from succeeding. So you have to see that in there too. All right? If you understand the story and what he's saying, how it relates to the story. The story of 100% truth is what it refers to.
Investors were already nervous before this latest incident. Over recent trading sessions, we've seen a significant correction in technology stocks. The Nasdaq has fallen sharply from its recent highs. Semiconductor companies have been amongst the biggest casualties. Some of the most heavily owned AI-related stocks have also come under pressure.
All of that goes to what? The image of the beast, the infrastructure.
After months of extraordinary gains, many investors had already started questioning whether valuations had become too stretched. Now they've been handed another source of uncertainty. The result has been a move away from risk. Money has started moving out of some of the highest growth sectors and into more defensive positions. The mood has changed considerably. Just a few weeks ago, the
defensive as in I'm running to my bunker and hedging my bets.
dominant conversation was about AI, growth projections, and record market highs. Today, the discussion is increasingly focused on geopolitics, inflation, and risk management. One of the most striking developments over the last few days has come from Wall Street itself. Bank of America has issued a warning that it describes as too many red flags appearing across financial markets.
Where are we going? What of America? Bank. Where are we going with that? Well, in order to bank, nigga, you got to have a bank mark.
Its strategists have highlighted a growing number of indicators that historically have been associated with major market peaks. In fact, they estimate that around 70% of their bear market warning signals are now flashing caution.
It's over. All right? This financial system and the dollar and all of that bullshit has run its course a long time ago. It's over now. They're being forced to move into this digital domain, whether they want to or not. And that's going to be their undoing. They're not quite ready, but he knoweth that he hath but a short time, so they're going to force it. Right? You douchebag, what do you say? You rushed it. What do you call it? You douchebag. You scoundrel, what do you call it? I'll think about it. Anyway, they rushed it. They had to rush.
That's not the sort of language that investors hear every day. When one of the world's largest financial institutions starts advising clients to take profits and exercise greater caution, people tend to pay attention.
You scumbag! You've rushed it!
And then we come on to oil. Oil prices remain above $90 per barrel. What's remarkable about that is how long they've been at that level. We've now spent more than 3 months above $90. At the beginning of this year, oil was trading at around $60, so we're looking at an increase of more than 50% in a short space of time. Now that is a huge move, and this isn't being driven by increased demand because of a growing economy. It's
a huge move for who? Who's getting that 50%? Well, nobody's looking. Where is it going? What are they doing with it? They're building out their infrastructure in front of everybody's eyes. Keep that in mind.
As a result of the shortage in supply. And energy sits at the heart of modern economies. When energy costs rise, the effects eventually spread into
They're simultaneously crashing the system while building out the new one.
Transportation, manufacturing, logistics, agriculture, and ultimately consumer prices. Businesses face higher operating costs, therefore consumers will pay higher bills. Inflation then becomes much more difficult to control, and central banks find themselves dealing with a much more complicated situation today. At the same time, government borrowing costs, which relate to bonds, are moving higher. Bond yields have risen dramatically over.
All this bank shit means this: the Most High is forcing this devil's hand. We're at the end of this thing, and everything is maxing itself out, if you will. Okay, drawing itself down, and the Most High is creating that. Okay, bond market derivatives, whatever you want to call all of that shit that they invented, right? It's all coming to a head. The lies and the perpetuation of the lies and the forwarding by magic and witchcraft, this thing called a dollar and what has been done with it, right? It's all coming to an end, right? By the spirit and power of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, first and foremost, and then whatever this devil is doing, thinking that he's going to move to his next level of wickedness, right? That lies within his next trap, which is the NWO, the whole financial system dealing with AI and what they call monetized or things having a price, everything having a price on it. I forget the word that they use. Monetize is the word that I'm going to use right now. But anyway, it deals with how to move within the digital and the AI system, right? And how to program you out of it, right? And exclude you. That's really what it's about. And what they're doing within that is trying to play God, if you will. The Most High is the one that does the excluding, okay? The Most High separated the nations. You understand? He's the one doing the excluding, and this devil is the one doing the imitating, okay? Understand that?
Months. And that increases the cost of financing deficits. It increases the cost of refinancing.
And yes, I'm talking a lot, but the point that I'm making is listen to what this guy is saying. Why? Why? Because he's telling you the whole story in a nutshell. In 10 minutes, he's bringing everything that you're supposed to know together. Okay? And because you don't like the way I talk, you're going to change your channel, not listen to it, and miss it. It was in your face. What was it called? It was called a warning. And I gave it to you. Whether you hear or forbear, my job is done. This is Sirach 5. And I like the fact that, I don't like the way you talk. I don't like the way you talk either. But if you got a message, boy, I better get it or it's my fault. Sirach 5 and 15. Be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or small. So back to it. Here's what we're doing. Listen to it.
Debt and creates additional pressure on economies that were already carrying high levels of historic debt. What's particularly interesting at the moment is
funny how we hear I bought ya coming up right here at the end, right?
gold hasn't behaved in the way many people expected. Normally, periods of geopolitical uncertainty produce a rush into traditional safe haven assets. Instead, we've seen gold prices soften.
Nothing is working. Things that traditionally work, but now they're not. Why? Because of what I just said. The Most High is bringing everything down. He's maxing everything out that used to work. It doesn't work no more.
Suggests investors are still trying to work out exactly where the safest place for their money is right now. In other words, there is uncertainty everywhere you look. Hi.
That's the Most High making it dark in Egypt. There's nothing, especially the little financial scheme that you got to make everybody put a C-hip in their hand. It goes along with the money. It goes along with the control. It goes along with the separation. So all roads lead to the C-hip right now. And they're trying to shoehorn you into that, right? By creating the conditions, by shutting down the straits, by lobbing cruise missiles, which is going to get out of hand as they struggle for who's going to run what they believe they're going to bring in as the NWO. So hopefully what I'm saying is clear and edifying.
Oil prices, rising bond yields, a correction in technology stocks, warnings coming from major financial institutions, and now another escalation in the most important geopolitical flashpoint in the world right now. Individually, each one of those developments would attract attention. but when you put them all together, they paint a very...
Who put them all together? Was it Esau? It's Esau on the ground. It's called as above, so below. What's first? As it is above, whatever the Most High created, that's what's going on down here on the earth. The Most High created Satan to tell Esau, look, here's what we're going to do. And that's what we see. If you don't understand, I'm trying to make it simple.
concerning picture. The challenge for policymakers is that many of these issues are interconnected. Higher oil prices fuel inflation. Higher inflation keeps interest rates elevated. Higher rates place pressure on borrowers, businesses, and also governments. And slower growth then starts to impact corporate earnings and investor confidence.
Who did that? From the top down. Oh, told on myself. Did Esau create that? Yeah, he did on the ground. Right? But in the spirit above that, which you can't see, right, is that this motherfucker ain't created shit. He's not a creator. He's doing what he's told. Just like the spiritual demon Satan. Esau's being told what to do by the spiritual demon Satan. The spiritual demon Satan is carrying out his orders he got from Yahweh Bashim Yahushua at the top. It's just that simple. Is this devil doing anything? He ain't doing shit. He's being a good devil. That's what he was created to do. We don't need you no more.
Chain reaction is precisely what markets are worried about. The reality is the global economy entered this year in a relatively strong position. Growth was holding up really well, employment was resilient, consumers were still spending, but economic resilience can be eroded surprisingly quickly when multiple pressures begin arriving at the same time. And that's why investors are paying such close attention to developments in the Middle East. This isn't just a story about war. This is an energy story, it's an inflation story, an interest rate story, and ultimately a global economic story.
Global economic, what does that come down to? Let's get it. This is global economics. This is global economics right here. Because of everybody in the world, okay, everybody in the world has to get this if you want to participate in global economics. That's what this says. But you refuse. Oh, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. It says Jesus. Okay. This is what this means. Okay. This is all of it coming together. Right there. Global, coming upon all the world.
And that's why investors are paying such close attention to developments in the Middle East. This isn't just a story about war. This is an energy story, it's an inflation story, an interest rate story, and ultimately a global economic story. The next few days...
This is about the controversy of Zion. That's what this is about. That's what this story is about. Okay, you done left that part out. All right. The next few days, what did I want to get? All roads lead to this sea hip. Okay. Revelation 16. Revelation 13 and 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in the right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save that he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. That goes right into economics and not being able to participate if you don't meet the criterion that he's talking about right here. Let it continue.
Economic story. The next few days are likely to be critical. Investors will be watching for signs of further military escalation. They'll be watching oil prices, they'll be watching the bond markets, and they'll be watching to see whether the recent weakness in technology stocks develops into something more significant. Because if this conflict continues to escalate, the economic consequences will be more severe. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail and everything will calm down, and diplomacy starts to gain traction. But the situation at the moment, the direction of travel appears to be moving in the wrong way. And that's why financial markets around the world are becoming increasingly concerned.
Financial markets around the world. Okay. He causeth all around the world. He causeth all. That's everybody around the world. To try the whole world. Let's get that. Okay. That will come upon all the world to try them. Right? Revelation 3 and 10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world. See that? All the world. The whole world is involved in what he's talking about. Right? This is what's coming upon all the world. Okay? These conditions that he's talking about.
So I'll keep you posted on any further news and developments, but hopefully you found today's episode useful.
Listen.
Because if this conflict continues to escalate, the economic consequences will be more severe. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail and everything will calm down, and diplomacy starts to gain traction. The global economy entered this year in a relatively strong position. The challenge for policymakers is that many of these issues are interconnected. Higher oil prices fuel inflation. Higher inflation keeps interest rates elevated. Higher rates place pressure on borrowers, businesses, and also governments, and slower growth then starts to impact corporate earnings and investor confidence. That chain reaction is precisely what markets are worried about. The reality is the global economy entered this year in a relatively strong position. Growth was holding up really well, employment was resilient, consumers were still spending, but economic resilience can be eroded surprisingly quickly.
What are we talking about? Global economics.
When multiple pressures begin arriving at the same time. And that's why investors are paying such close attention to developments in the Middle East. This isn't just a story about war. This is an energy story, it's an inflation story, an interest rate story, and ultimately a global economic story.
Ultimately, a global economic story that is being shaped into a chip. All of this, right? Hoopla and war and money and manipulation, all of this is part of an exacted plan to get you to put a microchip either in your hand or in your brain so that you can move forward and participate in the world economy to come. And this is for everybody. This is for all nations, for all governments, which shall come upon all the world. This is what we're talking about. Okay? And he, today, right now, in the last 3 hours, he's summing it all up right now where we're at with it. Okay? And if you heard him, they're pivoting away from AI and chips and shit like that because they want to get in a defensive position. Yeah, the defensive position is bringing in that NWO. So don't think for a moment that they turn their back on. It's going bad out there with data stations, power stations, and energy. The energy it takes to run AI, that's all fucked up. But have they turn their back on the long-range goal, which is to control everybody? No, they're having a problem doing it. What is that called? He shall be in straits when he's about to fill his belly. He shall be in straits when they start bombing and fair use. I don't plan on bombing nothing. I'm not bombing anything, but those people are going to attack those stations. Let alone if these other nations come over here, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to take down that AI. So what's going to come of the whole thing? They're going to destroy each other. They're going to turn on each other, right? These shall hate the whore. What is that? Okay, and I know, Salaki, I want to apologize to anybody watching these lessons because I do speak at the level of GMS, which I should soften that and use more milk for those that are coming in. And I forget. So Salakia, I'll try to make it more understandable, if you will, and I'll explain things. If you got to explain something like the bubble-eyed blackfish, a lot of people know, things like that, right? That go back into GMS. There's certain people and things, and there are things that you should know about. There are things that you speak on. There are things that you don't speak on because you weren't around at that time. Those stories get brought forward. There's an etiquette that you have in this thing. There's a maturity, right? There's a name. What was that name? What was that name that I used to like? Not the Seattle Snake. There's another name out there that there's some names. There's some names, but they start going into the old names, right? But there's a couple that caught my attention, but you don't speak on them because you weren't around at that time, and but things get spoken on, So it's just a way to act, right? And again, Salaki, I'll try to be more informative and more all-encompassing instead of just speaking straight at the old guys or whatever. I think the Spirit is on me for that. So again, I apologize about that, but just a small warning. All roads lead to the C-hip. All right, and the C-hip is trending. It's taken center stage. And that has to be dealt with before that final volley of missiles come in. So we're going to keep our eye on it. I just thought this guy did a good job of, it's kind of monotone, but he summed it up from the helicopter stuff. Right? So go back and listen to it again without me breaking in. But consider some of those things. Because this is how close we are. Let's get that. It is even at the door. Right? How close are we? It is even. Even what? At. I'm sure I did that wrong. Our salvation is nearer than when we believed. When you see these things, when you see what things happen, what he just explained, when you see them trying to bring everything, right? Oh, we're going to bring the war. We're going to bring food, right? We're going to bring money, all under one jurisdiction, the chip. Even so, when you see these things happening, Mark 13:29. Even so, when you see these things happening, you know that it is near, right at the door. Okay? When you see these things happening, we're going to see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. All right? That's how close we are. How close are we? We're very close to the hour of temptation. How about that? That's when they force you to take, right? You want to live. You want food, water, a job, and a home. You're going to do what is required to do that. So, here's the warning again. Don't take that route. Take an additional route. Take the righteous route, which is to turn your back on that and trust in the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua. First, you got to repent, right? Get yourself in order. Anyway, just a warning, okay? A warning from old Joe blogs here. But you have to prepare your mind for what you're about to see, and there's no way to do that other than, right, to get yourself into the secret place of the Most High. That's the only thing to get you through. You're going to bug out when you see all that death and blood. And I saw a cat. I went on my walk today. I saw this cat, and it looked like the paws were chewed off of it. It was laying in the sidewalk. I'm like, what the fuck? Here we go. Right? Then I saw this Edomite woman, blonde-haired Edomite woman. She was pushing a stroller, and on the stroller she had a whole futon, or like a day bed. Right? And on top of that, she had her belongings. So she was just walking down the street, and that's where she's moving her bed down. I'm like, look at Esau. Right? So these are the signs that we are at the end. Right? It is even at the door. So, again, there's the warning. If you're trying to do something going into the next 3 years, you're doing the wrong thing. Right? This shit is about to go down, and you need to know the name of the Most High and the elder apostles of GMS on down. Right? With that, we pray that the elect ratified you, brothers and sisters. Shalom.